Okay, today I want to show you how to configure some Cisco routers and some Cisco switches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some 2911 series routers, magnify that a little bit. I'm going to change this one. I want to put some cards in it so we could set up some serial connections as well as your gigabit connections. So I'm going to turn the power switch off here. And then from there I'm going to add a HWIC-2T. This is high density WAN interface card. The 2T means 2 T1s. And I'm going to put this WIC cover over the remaining three slots here. And then I'm going to turn the power back on. And I'm going to select the config tab, let that boot back up. And I go ahead and click OK. The display name is router 0. I like it to start with router 1, so I'm going to change the 0 to a 1. And then under host name, I'm going to go ahead and add a 1 and click Save. We should see that reflected here in the equivalent iOS command window. And then I'm going to select the CLI. And then I'm going to go ahead and close this. And notice that should change to router 1. I'm going to go ahead and grab another 2911 series router. And notice it called it router 2, but if I click on it, I need to turn it off again. Add the HWIC-2T card to that. Go ahead and put the WIC cover over the remaining slots. Turn the power back on. Go to the config tab, let it boot up. Going to go ahead and click OK. At router 2, we're going to add router 2 here. Press enter and save. And we'll minimize that one. Grab another 2911. I want 3 routers for this lab. I'm going to click on router 3, turn the power off. Again, HWIC 2T. WIC cover. Turn the power back on. Go to the CLI tab and let that boot up. And minimize this window. Now if you want to move them around, you can kind of click to the left of your routers and drag a rectangle, and then you can kind of move them towards the center, somewhere around there. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to connect WAN links between these routers, router 1 to router 2, router 2 to router 3. And in our lab, we're going to make the provider router 2, and then these will be our router, router 1, and router 2 that's going to be going through the provider. So I'm going to click this reddish yellow lightning bolt down below. And I'm going to select this red little lightning bolt with the clock symbol. And if you click that, and then go to router 2 first, and we're going to select serial 000, and we're going to drag that over to 000. And if you've done that, you should see this little clock symbol on this side and not that side. We'll get into what that is a little bit later. We're going to click that same cable again down below. Same thing. Click on serial 001. Now notice that serial 000 is not available anymore because we use that to go from router 2 over to router 1. So now we're going to click on serial 001 over to serial 000. So again, we should have the clock symbol on this side, not that side. This is the simulated provider. Okay. Then from there, we want to add a couple of the switches. So I'm going to click on the network device icon down here again. And you notice that routers are selected below that. If we go just to the right of that, we can select switches. And then we're going to grab a Cisco 2960 and put one there. And we can put one over here just to show you don't have to drag. You can click on it and then hit the plus symbol. And then from there, I'm going to click on that switch and we'll see a 2960 series switch. Let's expand that out. And I want to use one of these gigabit uplink ports to connect to the router. And then these will be what we connect our computers into. So I'm going to go to the config tab. Again, we're going to see the display name switch 0. So we're going to go ahead and make that a 1. Oh, so what happened is, because this one's already a 1, I can't change this one to a 1. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to go to this switch, go up to the config tab. I'm going to change this to a 2. I'm going to add a 2 here where it says hostname 2. Press enter, should be reflected down below, and click save. And then if I close this, that'll be switch 2. Now I can go back and name this one switch 1. And now notice I didn't get a message. And I'll press enter and then save. And then we're going to select the down below, the reddish yellow lightning bolt again. And this time we want a copper straight through. So this is the black / line here. Click that. And we're going to go from switch 1 all the way down to gigabit Ethernet 01. And then we're going to click on router 1 and select gigabit Ethernet 00. So your switches start with 01 and your routers start with 00. And then we're going to do the same thing on the far right. We're going to connect gigabit 00 on the router to gigabit Ethernet 01 on the switch. Okay. Now we're going to add some computers. So if we click down below again, we want end devices. We're going to grab a PC, personal computer, and put one there. Now I'm going to click on this one, go to the config tab, change PC 0 to a 1, and I'm going to go ahead and give it the IP address while we're here. So if we go up to desktop and then IP configuration, I'm going to leave it right now for static, and we're going to do 192.168.1.3. Hit the tab key, it'll fill in a 255.255.255.0 mask, where that's what I want to use right now. I'm going to press enter, and we're going to put in 192.168.1.1 will be our default gateway. That's what we're going to configure on the IP of the router once we configure that. And for the DNS server, let's just do 192.168.4.5. Now there's no save button here, so if we close this and go back into it, notice it keeps it. So let's close this, close that. Now we got PC1 over here. I'm going to grab another personal computer, put it over here. It automatically called it PC2, which is what I want, but we want to give it the IP. So we're going to click on it. Again, select desktop, IP configuration, and then we're going to do 192.168, and this one's going to be 1.4, the tab key twice. That'll fill in the subnet mask. And then 192.168.1.1. And then 192.168.4.5. And then we'll close this, we'll close that, and click off of it. And then let's connect some cables from these PCs over to the switch. So we'll get this reddish yellow lightning bolt again down below. Copper straight through cable. We'll click on PC1, scroll down to its fast Ethernet port. Click on switch 1 and select fast Ethernet 01. It should put a cable between the PC1 and your switch 1. You do the same thing for PC2. So fast Ethernet up to fast Ethernet 0 on the PC2, and then fast Ethernet 02 on switch 1. And let's go ahead and drop some IPs below here so we know what we're configuring. So if I hit N, so Nancy, click over next to the PC here. I'm going to say, okay, its IP is going to be 192.168.1.3/24 for our subnet mask. And then our default gateway is going to be 192.168.1.1. And then if I select this rectangle, if you follow my cursor up here, I can kind of move this if you click on it, put it close to the PC like that, and then click off of it. We'll do the same thing down here for PC2. So we're going to say that the IP is 192.168.1.4/24, and our default gateway is going to be 1.1. And I'll click the rectangle again so I can move this. Let's put an IP under the switch that we're going to be configuring as well. So the switch's IP is going to be 192.168.1.2/24, and its default gateway is going to be 192.168.1.1. Let's put the IPs under the router. Now the router is the default gateway for the users on the left here. So we're going to do its gigabit port. So gig 00, and that's going to be that 192.168.1.1/24, and then serial 000, and this is going to be 193.168.2. Now I did make this one a 193. So to the left, I'm using private IPs, and to the right, between router 1 and 2, and also router 2 and 3, we're going to use public IPs to simulate, an internet-style connection. So I'm going to do 2.1, and we're going to use variable length subnet masking in our lab, VLSM. So we're going to have different size subnet masks. So I'm going to go ahead and do a /30. And I also want to indicate that we are going to configure a loopback interface. So we're going to press enter, LO0, abbreviation for loopback 0. And this is good for your routers. We'll get into why we're doing that a little bit later. And we're going to do 1.1.1.1/32. And then click on the rectangle at the top left to kind of move this below the router. So we got the gigabit 00 here to the left, the serial 000 to the right, and then this is going to be an interface. It's for the whole router. If we want to troubleshoot ping it, telnet, trace route, SSH to it, we can use this loopback right here. Okay. Let's go ahead now. We're only going to be using the serial interfaces on the router 2 and a loopback. So I want the one to the left, which is SE0/0/0, to be, again, 193.168. This will be 2.2/30. And then serial 001 is going to be 193.168 3.1/30. And then we have LO0, which is going to be 2.2.2.2/32. And I'll click on the rectangle at the top left, move this where I want it. Let's go to router 3. Again, clicking in, and its serial 000 is going to be 193.168 3.2/30, and it's gigabit 00 port on the router. We're going to make that 192.168 4.1/24 to simulate the LAN connection. And we'll create a loop back over here of 3.3.3.3/32. And I'll click off of that. And then select the rectangle. So I can move this underneath there. Then I'm going to go under the switch, again hit N, and I'm going to say the switch's IP on this side is going to be 192.168 4.2/24, and its default gateway will be 192.168 4.1. And I'll move that underneath switch 2. Now I want to add a couple of computers, PC 3 and 4, and I also want to add a server to the right side over here as well. So I'm going to go back down to End Devices, select the PC. I'm going to put one up here, PC 3. I'm going to put one over here, PC 4, and then I'm going to click this server icon, and I'm going to put one up here. Now I do want to change server 0 to server 1, so I'm going to click on that. Again, go to the config tab and change it to server 1. And let's go ahead and give it the IP while we're here. So we're going to select desktop, IP configuration, static, which is already selected, and then we're going to do 192.168. This one's going to be 4.5, and then hit the tab key. It'll fill in the subnet mask, and then 192.168 4.1, and then we're going to close this, close that. Go ahead and hit N over here so we can kind of label that. So its IP, it's going to be 192.168 4.5/24, and its default gateway will be 192.168 4.1. Now let's connect some, well, let's do PC 3 and 4, and then we'll connect the cables here. So again, desktop for PC 3, IP config, and then 192.168. This one's going to be 4.3/24. Oops, I didn't mean to put the slash in there. 192.168 4.3. Hit the tab key twice, and then 192.168 4.1. And we'll go ahead and make the DNS server 192.168 4.5, which notice that's the address of our server. We'll go ahead and close that, and that's the one we've been using with all of them. Go to PC 4, desktop, IP configuration, and then 192.168 4. So this is going to be 4.4, and then our 24-bit mask if you hit the tab key, and then 192.168.4.1 and 192.168.4.5. And we'll close this, and we'll close that, click off of it, and now we're going to click the red lightning bolt down at the bottom left, and select the third cable from the left. And we're going to go from switch 2, fast Ethernet 01, up to PC3, fast Ethernet 0. So to connect the cable there, we'll do the same thing from switch 2, fast Ethernet 02, down to PC4. And last cable from switch 2, fast Ethernet 03, up to server's fast Ethernet. So connect those cables. I want to label the IPs over here, so I'm going to hit N. So the IP of PC3, we made it 192.168. This was 4.3/24. And our default gateway again is 4.1. And over here, this PC is 192.168. 4.4/24, and our default gateway is 4.1. And click on the rectangle. I'm going to move these a little bit closer. Okay, you can go ahead and magnify this a little bit, make it a little bit bigger, and then select everything and kind of position it somewhere around here. And then click off of it. And that's an example of getting everything ready before we actually configure the switches and the 3 routers. We've got the computers ready, we've got the server ready, and then the next step would be to go ahead and I want to copy and paste some templates, and I also want to give the devices their unique IP address and subnet mask and the loopbacks and stuff like that. So this is going to end just getting it prepared for us to go in and configure the Cisco routers and switches. Will be the next lab. Hopefully you enjoyed that, and check out lab number 2. This is number 1, and then we'll go ahead and start configuring the Cisco devices.